Gracias. Yeah, you know, and this is, I just gotta learn to edit better. Sí, soy perezosa. I am lazy. Soy muy perezosa. Y no tengo ganas de editar, you know, I do not have desire to edit things, but I really should just bite the bullet, do that and not worry about it. And then I don't have to remember to turn on, turn off. Gracias. Gracias. Okay. Vamos a empezar con destinos. We're going to begin with destinos just because I'm afraid if I do otherwise, I'm maybe going to lose out. And a number of people have mentioned that they like doing a quick walkthrough because they kind of manage to pick up on things that they just did not before. And it occurred to me that it's like, well, yeah, sí, eso es, that does happen. And there will be, of course, always a number of items that you know, don't always necessarily well, they make sense to me, but you know, yeah, I'm thinking, yeah, this makes sense, and maybe it doesn't to you, or maybe you have an odd question about, or not an odd question at all about, you know, just, well, why did they use that word, or what's that mean? So we're going to do a quick walkthrough with some of this. We won't, as a matter of fact, I'm going to fast forward through all the precursor stuff because that loses, oh, look at that, automatically 2.5 minutes, 2.5 minutes, if not more, 3 minutes, 3 minutos, and we don't need to see her doing that again. Oh, but you do see some past tense. We're going to notice a few things. I've got some notes about things that I think might have been maybe a little puzzling, but vamos a ver. We're going to see, oh, y es un episodio de que se trata un poquito de la cultura y la historia. They take this opportunity to talk a little bit about you know, some history and culture things. And this time, because of course they're not in Puerto Rico, they're not in Argentina, they're not in España, están en Mexico, they're in Mexico. It'll focus on some things which really are kind of a big deal for you, and I'll let you know why it's a big deal. Aquí tenemos el pobre Carlos,
You're not sharing anything.
Oh,
you need to share.
Gracias. Okay, I've got to get that going too. Oh, más botones, more buttons to push. Okay, aquí vamos. Here we go. And here you're going to hear, you know, in this episode, they went through lots of, you know, they start to mix tenses a lot. You know, of course, she gives some commands. Dijo que quería regresar a La Gavia. It said that I wanted to go back to La Gavia. Well, he might not have La Gavia to go back to. No sabemos. Te prometo que regresarás a casa. I promise you that you will return home. Dice Mercedes. Te prometo, I promise you, right? And she uses a future. Whenever you see the whole infinitive and it's wait a minute, regresar is to return. And wait, they didn't get rid of the AR off of the regresar. When they don't get rid of that, it's one of two tenses. It's either what they call conditional or future. And this is future. And she says, I promise that you will return. Now, most people would just express that in conversation as vas a regresar. In conversational Spanish, they don't really use the formal future tense all that much. So the fact that they're using regresarás a little bit surprised me, but they may have been teaching that. And therefore, we're trying to figure out a way to plug that in. En cuanto, te prometo que regresarás. I promise you that you will return en cuanto el doctor lo autorice. En cuanto, as soon as the doctor authorizes it, blesses it, okays it, authorizes formally. Now, autoriza is the way you say he authorizes it, but they say this as autorice. And autorizar is to allow something to happen, to authorize it, to okay it, to put your stamp of approval on it. But they use the opposite vowel because they're using subjunctive. So one thing I want you to notice with these negative tu commands that we're going to seg into, the negative tu commands very, very nicely seg into why we do this funny thing called subjunctive. And normally subjunctive is something that people only tackle when they've had a fair amount of Spanish, but to be very honest, people use subjunctive all the time. I once asked a friend who was a native speaker, you said sitting around at the family table, how often do you use subjunctive? Just shooting the breeze with the family, like over just nothing, the normal everyday junk that happens during the day. Oh, 40% of the time, easy. 40% is almost half. So what the heck is that thing they call subjunctive? Subjunctive uses opposite vowels. Autorizar is an AR verb. So whenever you hear these funny, it sounds like it's wrong. You know, AR verbs get endings. This is an a ending. Whenever you see stuff like that, it means they're using subjunctive. And you should look at it as they're talking about things that haven't really happened yet. They're not really happening at this time they're talking. If you tell dear old dad in the hospital, I promise you, you're going home, as soon as the doctor okays it, the doctor has not yet said, put on your pants and get out of the room, go home. So this act of autorizar has not yet happened. That's why they use subjunctive. And subjunctive is very, very, very much tied to those negative tu commands, most definitely. Okay, van a enfocar en los problemas. They're going to focus on the problems. Van a concentrarse en los problemas entre varios miembros de la familia. Entonces, Carlos tiene problema con los negocios, con la oficina. Juan y Patti tienen problemas personales porque ella quiere seguir su carrera, pero su carrera está en Nueva York y ellos están en México, ¿ok? And here comes more subjunctive. No es que mi vida profesional sea más importante. It's not that my career might be more important than you are. And the sea, the subjunctive, comes in again. Because she's saying this isn't true. And if you're saying something isn't a fact, and hey, you think this is right, but this thing doesn't even exist, they use subjunctive. This is what they do. Es lo que hacen. Okay. A ver. Okay. And you're going to see again, here's another reason people use subjunctive. When one person recommends or asks somebody else to do something, right? I ask you to vacuum the car, but yeah, you're probably not going to do it. I don't know if you're going to do it, right? That vacuuming, that's subjunctive because I don't know if it's going to happen. I don't need that, not even an idea. So if people recommend that you do something, I recommend you get a whole new air conditioning unit. You necessarily doing that? Maybe not with one quote, right? So, ¿qué nos recomiendan? What do you guys recommend? And they're going to start with a que. And the que here means not what, but that. That you do this.
Señores, ¿qué nos recomiendan?
Que tomen medidas drásticas.
that you take drastic measures. And look, it's a wrong conjugation, but not so much. You expect to hear que toman, but it's que tomen, because these guys want them to do something, but they don't know if that's going to happen. And when you don't know if it's going to happen, because it's a recommendation or a, hey, we want you to, or even, hey, we're telling you, you got to do this. You don't know if that's going to happen. So it goes into the funny thing we call subjunctive.
Que cierren la oficina en Miami
Que cierren, close the
es la
office.
causa de los problemas. Después, se deben concentrar en la producción de acero.
Okay, so we know that they want them to sell out and, you know, make these big changes. Y bueno, okay, entonces después Arturo habló por fin por teléfono con Pedro, ¿sí? Y hablan de la situación, del accidente de Roberto. Roberto es el hermano de Ángela, ¿sí? Roberto y Ángela son los nietos de don Fernando. Ángela and the brother that's under the rubble still, right? They're the newly found grandchildren of don Fernando. So they're still trying to dig out el pobre Roberto. And they talk a little bit about, you know, the excavación. Oh,
Estoy segura de que cuando lleguemos al lugar.
oh, estoy segura, I'm sure, de que cuando lleguemos, I'm sure that when we get there, something will happen. Wait a minute, shouldn't that be llegamos? You know that as llegamos, right? Okay, why is it not llegamos? Because I'm sure when we get there, something's going to happen. Are we there yet?
No.
This is another example of why they use subjunctive. When you use the word when and you talk about a habitual thing, when I clean, I always start with the bathroom. Now you're talking about a habit, but when I leave the house, I'm going to make sure that I go to the gas station first. I'm not at the gas station, right? Or actually, even, you know, when I leave the house, have I left the house yet? I haven't left the house yet. When I leave the house, you're talking about something that is down the road. So when we use when to talk about an event that's down the road, they'll use this funny looking verb called subjunctive. So every time you hear and I encourage you with these to turn on the subtitles, subtítulos, closed caption. Notice all the times where you say that verb looks wrong, that verb looks wrong, that verb's not wrong, that verb is probably going into subjunctive. Okay.
Pregunta.
Sí, dime.
Yeah. I'm having a little trouble with something, why it's not future tense. What's the difference between
Okay.
and
Es buena pregunta. That is a really good question. Future tense in Spanish is seen as something that is kind of certain. This is a state of mind, I think, really more than a grammar thing. Future tense, let me back up.
Okay.
Rather than tenses, subjunctive is not a tense.
Oh, dear.
It is talking about a verb, but it's not technically what we know as a tense. Subjunctive is a mood. And this lleguemos is a present subjunctive within the mood that's called subjunctive. So lleguemos is a tense, but it's the present, but it's in camp subjunctive. You got camp indicative and camp subjunctive. What indicative means is It indicates something is going on. It's really happening, or it really did happen, or future, it really will happen. So things like present, all the pasts, future, or even what you haven't seen yet called conditional, like I would do this, you know. Those are all in camp indicative. And all of those tenses that you know as actual tenses, presente, pretérito, imperfecto, futuro, all those things function in what they call the indicative mood. And that means they indicate things that really are happening. And they consider futuro, Susana, futuro, to be kind of a sure thing. Like, oh, if I say it will happen, I'm in charge of that and it's going to happen.
Okay.
It hasn't yet, but it will. It will, because I say it will. And I'm doing it. Okay. So that's future.
Okay, thank you.
And there are moods, because indicative deals with reality. What truly is going on, what truly did go on, what truly is going to happen because I'm in control of what's going on, okay? But subjunctive deals with the world of, it's kind of la la land, kind of Twilight Zone. It talks about wanting something to happen, but don't know. Ordering something to happen, but hasn't happened yet. Deals with recommending stuff, deals with, gee, I wish, deals with, even deals with, it isn't really a fact. You think this is, but it's not. So something that hasn't really happened yet, something that is in doubt, anything that is in doubt or is not a part of what is really happening falls into what they call subjunctive. Many languages have this. French has it, although in some different forms. They don't share all the same things that Spanish does. English has almost none.
Mm.
And that is why it is hard for us to understand, why do you even need this? Because we don't have it. We say, I want you to come tomorrow. And we say, I want you to come. To come is just an infinitive. I want you to come. In Spanish, they say, I want that you should come. I want that you might come.
Mm.
And it hasn't happened yet. So that's why it goes off the you may come, goes off into the la la land of what they call subjunctive. The closest we get to that in English is to say something might or may happen. And we don't even, I don't think we even call it subjunctive, but in English, what they call in Spanish subjunctive in English turns into about 4 or 5 different structures. It's not always the same. So we can't, the reason it's hard for us to see, all the I can show you is examples. I could give you a lot of rules, but it's better to see the examples of when they use subjunctive. So you get a feel for why this happens, or when, better yet, maybe not why, but when it happens, when it will happen. Because we have no good and certainly no consistent way of expressing that in English, it shoots off into all kinds of different formats. So it's very, very hard for English speakers to understand, why do you even need to use this? Well, it's kind of a plane of existence that doesn't happen in our language. Okay.
Thank you.
Pregunta. So
Please
then
continue.
how would you say, I want you to come here? Because all of us would say, yo quiero, I want, you would use what, venir, to come. I mean, that's how I would work it all out. Aquí, yo quiero, yo te quiero aquí. And
Okay,
that's what I would say to.
I want you here. And you know what? They would get the gist of what you mean. So would you make yourself clear? Well enough. Well enough. It might sound a little funny, but they get the general idea. So, because you got the right vocab. Not in the right form, maybe, but you got the right. So, yeah, you can kind of get that idea across. Okay, so let me show you the difference between, ¿Cómo se dice? You do know how to say this perfectly well. I want to come tomorrow. I want to come.
Yo quiero venir aquí mañana.
Quiero
Yeah.
venir.
I want to come here tomorrow.
Quiero venir mañana. Quiero venir mañana. I want to come tomorrow. Okay, perfecto. Perfecto. Quiero venir. Who wants to do that?
I do.
I do. Who wants to do the action of coming?
I do. Yeah.
I do. So that's right to say, quiero venir. I want to do it. And the thing I want to do is come on in. Okay. But now I want that, and the word that will become que.
Mhm.
I want that you should come. Quiero que vengas. Quiero que vengas.
Yeah.
How do you say, don't come tomorrow? My house is a mess. Don't come. You say, no vengas.
Mm.
A command is no vengas.
Mm.
I want you to come is yo quiero que vengas. You see why you're learning two commands that are negative?
Oh.
That is the bridge into understanding. What do I do for subjunctive? That's the bridge in. Quiero que vengas mañana. Quiero que laves mi baño. I want you to wash my bathroom. Or quiero que limpies la cocina. If you have a maid, quiero que limpies la cocina. I want you to clean the kitchen. Quiero que repares el aire acondicionado, la máquina de aire acondicionado. I want you to fix that. So negative two commands are just subjunctive. I mean, they're not, but they're kind of in that same family and they're formed the same way. So I want you to come becomes I want something. I join it with a que, and now I'm talking about a second different person. Not the same as the yo of I want. I want that you do something. So whenever one person wants somebody else to do something, that second human being, that second different person is what goes into subjunctive. That is one and the most common use. And next week, you guys are going to practice that. And once you understand negative two commands, yes, it will go. But how often do you tell somebody, I want you to do this? Kind of a common thing, right?
Yeah.
Or I don't want you to do this.
Right.
Or I hope you do. How often do you say to somebody, I hope you're okay? You got to use subjunctive to do that so that they understand you easily. I hope that you're okay. It's going to become subjunctive. So once you got the negative twos down, you know how to do that. Now all you got to learn is, why do I do that? When you want somebody else to do something. Here's still, commands are still wanting somebody to do something, right?
Yeah.
Déjeme pasar. Let me come through. It's a command. Déjeme pasar will be the same as subjunctive. Exactamente igual. Okay. Oh, tengo una idea. Ven is do this. Here's not a negative, but an affirmative command. It's a tu command. Ven. The same thing as venir, comes from venir. Ven. Come on over, yeah. Ven, ven. Ok. Hablan de los trabajadores en la excavación. Hablan con... cambiamos de tema. We change topic. We're back at the hospital. Estamos en el hospital. Habló con el especialista de Guadalajara. I talked with that specialist in Guadalajara. Pasado. And now they're talking about these long lost people. Oh, ha habido un accidente. There has been an accident. That's a perfect tense thing. You don't really need to know that yet, but just know that means there has been an accident. So then they seg back to the accident. Oh, it's a tu command. What does she tell Angela to do? She's trying to take her mind off of like digging rocks off of people.
Talk to me about your brother.
Yeah, háblame. Talk to me. Tell me a little bit. Yeah, háblame un poco más de tu hermano. Tell me a little bit more about your brother. And then they use this as kind of a thing to get, a vehicle to get into culture a little bit. Me pregunto. Me pregunto means I wonder. And she's wondering what exactly, why the heck is he under all that rubble? What the heck is he doing anyway? Me pregunto. I ask myself literally means I wonder. Me pregunto is how we would say, I wonder. Because you ask yourself a question, and that means you're wondering. Me pregunto qué civilización indígena le interesaba. What interested him so much? Le interesaba tanto. I wonder what got under his skin that he was so interested. Well, how come? Y entonces empiezan a hablar de la cultura de México. Ok, esto sí es importante, especialmente en México. Mexico is a country where obviously a much smaller percentage of people still speak these indigenous languages, but there are people who still speak indigenous languages. There are a lot of words that came over from Nahuatl, which was like one of the main indigenous languages of the Aztecas, into Spanish. Words for certain fruits and vegetables and things like that came over from indigenous languages. As happened from, native indigenous languages into English. The local fauna and flora often winds up wending its way into whatever language comes over. The Mexicans are in particular, and I would say this is a pretty fair generalization that is fair to say. Latin Americans in general, and I don't know if you could say Mexicans in particular, but Latin Americans are exceedingly proud of the indigenous heritage, the indigenous culture that existed before the Spaniards came over. Kind of like the push and pull we have in the States with Confederate culture versus, do we still put up monuments to this? This is kind of a touchy thing for a lot of folks in Latin America as well, para que sepan, just so you know. You would think, oh, Hernán Cortés, he was the big guy who came over, El Conquistador, and he came over from Spain to colonize, conquer Mexico. He is not really looked upon very fondly by the Mexicans. There have been statues pulled down in the last 10 years, 5 years. They're not terrifically fond of Hernán Cortés. He is not the symbol of guiding light. Thank you for coming from Europe and enlightening all of us people. They're not terrifically fond of this. They appreciate the Spanish language and all of that, but there was a lot of, havoc wrought by Spaniards coming in. It was an exceedingly bloody takeover of a country. And, the mestizo culture is an intricate part of Mexican culture. Mestizo means it's the blending of both people who have heritage that comes from Spanish ancestors and indigenous ancestors. And mestizos, when we talk about mestizos, that is the predominant race or racial group, if you will, of Mexico. And that means, there are very few purebred people who are just descended from Spaniards, or people who are only descended from Indians, although there are still some pockets of Mexico where the Indian, the Native American, the indigenous background, might be a bigger part of the racial mix of that population. But they're very proud of this. They're very proud of the indigenous cultures that were there before the Spaniards got there. And so for people to study archaeology, they're exceedingly proud of the archaeological digs and the finds and all the things that these previous cultures did. A lot of them did a great deal with astronomy and herbal medicines and mathematics, for sure. So this is a part of their ancestral background that is a point of pride for them. And they showed you, anytime you see indígenas, that is a more popular word than indio. It used to be indios, los indios, Indians. And that word is getting swept away because they're not being really politically correct, but being more accurate, saying indígenas, the indigenous people who were here before the Spaniards. And, they show you how that came about and, models of what they think things look like. They can kind of guesstimate some of this from some of the buildings that are still standing. And they had to know quite a bit about doing calculations to build things that were this big. So, it was an accomplished civilization. And interestingly enough, it came from the north. The people who eventually moved down here came from kind of where Arizona, donde está ahora Arizona. Yeah, the original Aztecas, they were originally kind of in our neck of the woods. That's where they came from, but they settled further south. And they show you the symbol of why this is on the Mexican flag. The legend was that you will know you're in the right place in your migration south, people, because you will see an eagle devouring a serpent, standing upon a nopal, our prickly pear. And that is why it is on a lot of money and on their flag. And yeah, so that's their thing, el símbolo de la cultura azteca. And it's always called Azteca, never Azteco. It's just Azteca. Okay. Entonces, so they tell you a lot about the culture. There was, the conquest was quite nasty. Moctezuma, who in English we call him Montezuma, but Moctezuma was literally assassinated by the Spaniards coming in. A lot of these people wanted gold and silver and lots of shiny, pretty objects, and enslaved a lot of the native peoples who were there before them. And by the way, brought over all sorts of very nasty diseases. So, yeah. But anyway, one of the things that archaeologists and, well, no, I won't say archaeologists, anthropologists are starting to deduce from things they have figured out and piecing together the sequence of what happened in the process of the conquest is that so much disease literally was brought over by the Europeans who conquered that there were pandemics. There was a pandemic, especially smallpox, and that the smallpox pandemic, which literally did happen and wiped out thousands and thousands of people. Of course, they didn't mean to, but it happened. Probably led to conversion to Christianity. Or I should say was a contributing factor. This is a thing they're surmising, anthropologists, because they said, if your gods can't stop the plague, you start to say, maybe we need to switch our gods. And so they think perhaps, besides the brutal conquest, which was a part of it too, was, that this whole thing might have been a way to, can we cure our people? And so there are a lot of interesting things that happen when you get conquests, but you'll notice when they went through a lot of imperfecto, pretérito for things that actually happened, imperfecto for things that they used to do, this culture. And here is pobre Hernán Cortés, who is now kind of a reviled figure. But, we all have good and bad things that happen in our backgrounds. And el Imperio Azteca, they always use Azteca, it never goes into a masculine form. So they tell you about the history of Mexico. La historia de México, y los tribus. And of course, the Aztecs were not the only indigenous culture. Por fin, ya lo encontré. I found him. Por fin, finally, after many episodes, they dig out poor Roberto. Pobre Roberto. Encontré, found him. They threw some past tense in there to get used to. Te lo dije que eran eficientes. I told you that they were efficient. They were talking about the guys who were digging. Y ahora, cambiamos de tema otra vez. Y estamos en Los Ángeles con los padres de Raquel. Con los padres de Raquel, especialmente con la mamá de Raquel en Los Ángeles. Y el antiguo novio. El antiguo novio que se llama Luis. Ok. Y Luis visita a los padres. Acaba de llamar para avisar. Oh, she just called to advise us, sí, que está en México. Y estas fotos son recientes. Wow, la mamá, she is milking this for all she can. She is the meddling mom. Oh, las memorias de cuando salían, when they used to go out. Yeah. Y aquí viene el papá de Raquel también. They find out he's on vacation. ¿Por qué no las aprovechas para ir a México? Why don't you take advantage of those vacations? And vacaciones is what she's referring to with las. Why don't you take advantage of them, meaning your vacation days, para ir a México, to go to Mexico? Thanks, Mom, for inviting my old boyfriend. And of course she says it's very romantic, and she very much puts pobre papá, she puts poor dad on the spot.
Muy romántico y Raquel está allí.
It's romantic, and Raquel is there.
La verdad, me gustaría mucho.
I would like
Nosotros
to.
también pensábamos ir a ver a Raquel.
Oh, we were thinking,
Yeah.
we were just thinking about going to see her. También pensábamos ir, pensar, ir, plan to go. Oh, we were just thinking about this. We were just planning to go see her.
Y tomar unos días de vacaciones, ¿verdad, Pancho?
His face.
Right, Pancho? Pobre Pancho. Pancho looks a bit surprised by this revelation. Me está sorprendido.
Bueno, la verdad es que...
It is never a good sign when you start a conversation with bueno, la verdad es que. The truth is that bueno is well. This is one of those pause words when you're trying to scramble and think of what you really want to say. And Dad really is not totally on board because la verdad es que, well, the thing is, so we know already from this phrase he used, which is like, I'm not so sure, even though it uses the word true. Thing is.
Ahí podemos ir a
But she interrupts, interrumpe.
visitar a los parientes de Guadalajara.
Pero de todos modos, María, los pasajes.
Hay agencias de viajes que ofrecen planes muy económicos.
Wow, you never saw somebody so anxious to spend money. Okay.
Tú, cosas,
Oh, tú ocúpate. You take care of this, I'll take care of the other thing. And she uses a tú command for pobre Pancho.
ocúpate de tus
Tú ocúpate de tus cosas. You take care of your end of it.
cosas y deja que yo me ocupe de esto, ¿eh?
Ah, y deja. Oh,
Ocúpate de tus cosas y deja.
and let me take care of this thing. I want you to let me do this. Que me ocupe. Here comes subjunctive. You're doing the allowing, and you're allowing me to do something.
And what is deja? Deja que yo? And-
Deja means many things. Deja here means let me. Deja is like giving permission or allowing somebody. Okay. Por ejemplo, dejo que mis hijos tomen el carro. I let my kids take the car. But I am allowing somebody else, a second different person, to do something. So dejo, it's a fact, I'm allowing it. Dejo que ellos manejen el carro. I'm letting them drive the car. Dejo que ellos tomen el carro. Dejo que ellos vayan a visitar a sus amigos. I let them go to see their friends. And I'm allowing somebody else to do something. It's the same idea as I want somebody else to do something, or I ask somebody else to do something. When you're putting the action on somebody else and it's not happening yet, it goes into what they call subjunctive.
And what,
So you've already seen a bunch of these. See.
what verb? Is that dar? Is that, what's the infinitive of deja?
Dejar, D-E-J-A-R, dejar.
Oh.
Dejar can mean to leave something behind, like to leave a tip on a table at a restaurant.
Mhm.
Dejar can also mean to allow or permit somebody to do something.
Mm.
Ah, you saw it earlier. Somebody wanted to get through in the crowd when they were waiting for the rescuers and they got this flood of people. Déjenme pasar. Let me come through. Déjenme, let me. Déjenme. It's like saying permitir. It's like a synonym for permitir. I could say, permite
Mhm.
que yo me ocupe. Permit me to take care of this. And it has the same meaning as using this similar verb. They're kind of synonyms. They're different words, but they're synonyms. They carry the same meaning.
So Marilyn, what am I missing in that? I see it as redundant, yo and me. So what am I missing there?
Okay. Oh, sí, Federico. Qué buena pregunta. Me ocupe. I am making myself busy with this job.
Oh,
So me ocupe is like I'm taking this on. I'm in charge.
I see.
When you
Okay.
say estoy ocupado, I'm busy, I'm occupied. Me ocupo, I'm busy doing this stuff.
But do you need the yo? Can't you just say deja me
No,
ocupe?
she has put the yo in there to be kind of like put her stamp on.
Emphasis.
She's being exacto. She's being emphatic. She is putting her foot down by saying yo. She's putting her foot down and saying, I don't care what you think. This is happening.
I'm doing it.
She's cutting him off at the knees in case he's got any, well, the thing is not so sure. No, this is happening. So yeah, she's being very emphatic with this. Okay. Y está contenta, and she's very happy that she's cutting him off at the knees.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. Pedro va a reunirse con Arturo. He's going to get together. We have a little thing there. They're talking a little bit with the bebe. And he is so glad he's not stuck in bad problems like his other siblings. Yeah. Poor dad. If he were to find out about what's going on, and this is actually a past subjunctive. If dad knew all the junk, all the crap that's hitting the fan, if dad knew about this, he'd be even sicker than he is. Oh, here's a more subjunctive. It's better that he doesn't find out. Es mejor que no se entere. Enterarse, an AR verb, means to find out about something. Es mejor que no se entere. Best he doesn't know anything. Best he doesn't find out. Es mejor is another, what they call a trigger. It's a reason for bringing in subjunctive. Better that this should not happen, but we don't know yet for sure. Will it happen? Is he going to find out or not? So you see how much got thrown in with subjuntivo. Oh yeah, now he's lamenting. Wow, man, I got a happy life. My siblings. Carlos is going to lose the office. Business going down the toilet. They want us to sell things. Oh yeah, and this new kid who's supposedly a family member, yeah, he tal vez, perhaps he's injured, and perhaps needs subjunctive because he doesn't really know how bad that situation is. So he's guessing.
No te preocupes, verás que está.
No te preocupes. Here's a command. You're going to do that soon. No te preocupes. Don't you worry. It's a negative too. Preocuparse is to worry. Preocuparse. No te preocupes. Opposite vowel. An ES ending for an AR verb. No te preocupes. Don't worry your head.
Está bien.
You'll see things are going to be okay. And she uses future because she's sure. Future is a sure thing. So she doesn't, none of that subjunctive like doubt, because he's in a bad mood already. Poor guy, he's down. Verás que estará bien. You will see that everything will work out okay. And she uses future because she wants to tell him, yes, it's not really going down the toilet like you think, honey. Everything will be fine. Everything will be well. All will be well. So she uses futuro to say, this is sure. I feel certain about this, sweetie. Don't worry. It's all going to be okay. So she doesn't use subjunctive. No more doubt, my dear. We're going to be fine.
Al menos yo soy afortunado.
Oh, at least I'm lucky.
Te tengo a ti, Mari Carmen.
Soy afortunada.
My life doesn't suck like my siblings. Isn't he happy? Yeah. Okay. Bien. Okay. So, ahorita, pasado, recap. So we don't need that again. But they'll have a little bit of a meeting. Boy, lots of recap. And, they're just touching base about what each person knows, which isn't much. Haven't had any news. So now
Podemos acercarnos
vengan. He says, come on.
Sí, pero no estorbaremos. Ve tú, Ángel.
Won't we be in the way?
Para no estorbar. Está bien.
So she says, you go ahead. I'll stay here. Me quedo aquí. I'll stay here so as not to get in the way. because they're dragging the bodies out, the live bodies,
Qué
thankfully.
emoción, ¿no? Están a punto de sacar a Roberto del túnel.
Oh, they're right on the edge of dragging him out. Sacar, taking him out del túnel.
¿Recuerdan lo que hacía Roberto en el momento del accidente? Exploraba una tumba indígena.
So he was investigating this, tumba. It's a tomb, yeah? When the accident happened. So he was nosing around, boom, cave in. Right? Imperfecto and then pretérito. And now she's just going to do some more recaps. So we'll leave that for now. Okay? But you saw a lot of what we call subjunctive. So I want you to do some negative tu practice so that you'll start to understand why you heard so stinking much subjunctive. ¿Por qué? Why did we do so much of this? We're gonna, a menos que tengan, unless you guys have, a menos que tengan subjuntivo, a menos que tengan una pregunta. If you have any other question on any other item, thing that sounded weird, unusual, lo que sea. Nada? Okay. Vamos. Let's take a look. I'm going to send you off into groups to do some negative tu stuff, because this is going to bridge us into a little bit of subjunctive in a hopefully less painful way than what I had to do when I was very young. So eventually we're going to look at the first four, and you had you had this link before, so you had a chance to look at this a little bit, that these are going to be negative tu commands. And remember, the negative tu commands don't look anything like the affirmative, the go do it, tu commands. The negative tu commands get a separate verb form, but their verb form looks just like the usted commands. And they're formed exactly like the usted commands. So, if I were to take estar, I'm just going to take perdón, and I need to shift a little bit. I need to get my Spanish keyboard. Sorry, guys. Perdón. Oh, and it won't let me do that because share screen. Sorry. Perdón. Perdón. Okay. Ahora español. No puedo escribir acentos. I cannot write accent marks without my keyboard. No me permite. Okay. So for estar, if I were to do an usted command, it would look like this. Este, right? An usted command for estar would be opposite vowel, right? ¿Sí? Normal? Este. So the negative tu is going to look just like usted, but an S at the end. Okay? If I took a verb like cuidar, to take care of somebody, right? An usted command would be opposite vowel. It would be cuide, right? Okay? So a negative tu is going to tag an S on the end. Same thing as usted commands. And of course, we've got to put a no in front of it, because you can't have a negative command without the word no. Okay? Bien? But start with the yo verb first. Start with the yo verb first, because that way, if there's some change, you'll see it. If there's one of those go verbs in the yo form, you'll see it. So, okay, you're going to go into groups and figure out how to say, don't go, don't wake the kids, don't open the window, don't smoke. And they're all going to be negative tu, not usted, negative tu. Okay? Don't go, don't wake the kids, don't open the window, don't smoke, and then we're going to come back and see how spot on you were, okay? Vamos a ver cuántos somos. 11, vamos a ver 3. we'll get you in about rooms of 3. I think that's about right. These are short commands, so I think you only need a little over 5 minutes. 5 minutos. Remember to hit your join button. Muy bien, aquí vienen todos. Here comes everybody back. ¿Fue difícil o no? ¿Fue muy difícil o no muy difícil?
No, muy.
Well, we
Okay.
had one question from our group.
Ok, bueno, Susana, primero.
Since we're speaking to you, it's the to form. When do you put the te? Or do you use the te
Oh,
in
well,
other than reflexive?
you need a te if it's reflexive, and
Right.
that's pretty much it.
So don't go, you don't need it.
So none
Right,
of those
yeah.
none of those four needed anything. It was just the command, no bias, no fumis, no.
You
no-
could potentially use it in number 1, and we'll talk about how and why. But number 2 can't, because you're not saying don't wake up, you're saying don't wake the kids.
Yeah. Okay.
So that's different. That's not reflexive, because I'm not saying, hey, oh yeah, that's so helpful. Don't wake up. Don't wake up. Has anyone ever done that to you? A
Yeah.
small person? By chance, yes.
But what about 4 with the please don't smoke?
Because you don't smoke yourself, you just smoke.
Hey.
Yeah, yeah. But we'll see. Yeah, okay. Bueno, ¿cómo se dice don't go? ¿Cómo se dice don't go?
No vayas.
Okay.
No vayas. Now, this is the one where you might hear somebody express it as no
you
te
sure?
vayas. Oh, perdón, gracias. Gracias. Okay, this is one where potentially no te vayas might be a thing. People may express it as no te vayas, and then what they mean is don't go away. Big difference. That's it. Because no te vayas just means don't go away. And no vayas, don't go. There's not that much difference between the two. So you might hear the te. You might hear the te there. Es posible. Okay. Don't wake the kids.
No despiertes los.
No despiertes a los niños, los hijos, los chicos, anyway, it depends on how old the kids are, right?
Marilyn, quick
Sí,
question.
sí.
Why is there an A after despiertes? Why is it no despiertes a los niños and not?
Oh,
just
this word
despiertes
here,
los niños? Sí,
this
sí.
word a.
Yeah.
That is the a personal. Who are you waking? The kids. Who's receiving the action of?
Receiving.
The kids. When human beings receive the action of the verb, we need that little word a. It doesn't mean anything at all in English. It means absolutely nothing in English. It does not translate to anything. It just needs to be there. When a human being, whether it's one or a whole bunch, whether it's me, you, the kids, even your pet, your pet. But when a human being receives the action of the verb, we need that little word a there. It is a signal to the person you're speaking to. Here comes the person. That's all
Okay,
it
thank
is.
you.
Yeah. And it will be so fleeting because somebody will say it like this: no despiertes a los niños. And it's the word a. How long does it last? Not very, but it needs to be there. No despiertes a los niños. Buena pregunta. Good question.
And one other comment, is anybody else hearing somebody speaking in the background? Or is
I
it
am.
just-
Yeah.
I know it's not me.
Oh, okay.
Okay. Don't open the window.
No,
abras
la ventana.
No abres la ventana. No abres la ventana. Abres.
¿Abres?
Oh, abras,
Ah,
perdón, perdón, sí, abras, perdón, sí, perfecto. No abras la ventana. And of course, por favor is always good to do with a command. No abras la ventana. No abras la ventana. Bien. Don't smoke, please.
No fumes.
No fumes, por favor.
Porfa.
No fumes, por favor. No fumes, por favor. Perfecto. Muy bien. A ver. No fumes, por favor. Okay. So we've got that. ¿Algún comentario? Any comment about this? Was there something that made it easy or difficult or
Just uncertain.
nada? Okay, let's tackle 5, 6, 7, 8, 5, 6, 7, 8. Oh, perdón. Do you need this to copy it down in case some of you don't have it handy? See, don't be shy. You need ser for that. You need ser. You don't say. You don't say. They have that phrase too. Don't get lost. Oh, that's reflexive.
Okay.
Oh.
And don't give her anything. Don't give her anything. Okay. A ver. Okay. Don't be shy. You don't say. And by the way, I'm going to give you a clue because when people say this, they typically insert this word. They just do. They typically say it as, don't tell me.
Oh,
Yeah.
All
And
right.
you hear people say this a lot. And this is like just a conversational thing that gets thrown out. And we'll talk about why you hear it a lot. So you are going to need that word may, because it's kind of unfair for me not to say that. So I'll be fair and say that. But perderse is a reflexive. So that's going to be reflexive. And oh, you're going to need that funny word for her, but it's not a reflexive. Yeah. It's going to be a le word,
Okay.
the word le. Okay, vale, bien. We're going to go back in, take about 5 more minutes, 5 minutos. 5 minutos para trabajar un poquito.
Okay.
A ver. Muy bien. Wow, everybody's coming back at the same time. Wi-Fi is working. Yay. Okay. Ole. Qué fantástico. A ver. Bueno. Don't be shy.
No seas timido.
No seas tímido.
Timido, timido.
Or if you're a lady, of course, it'll be tímida, right? And I've got to type, put my share button on. Of course, somebody has to remind me again. No seas tímido. People usually say that if, you know, you're kind of hesitant, you're not making yourself at home, and they want you to chill. Just chill, relax. Yeah, no seas tímido. Yeah, no seas tímido. Okay. Here's a fun thing that you hear people say quite a lot, actually. You don't say.
No me digas.
No me digas. No me digas. And I'm going to even do the good old exclamation mark with this because that's usually the way it's no me digas. Now, it might be said as in, no me digas, like you're disgusted, right? Or more frequently, no me digas. You're shocked. You're surprised. You're surprised. No me digas. Tengo un Mercedes. No me digas.
So if you,
Camila. Oh, perdón.
if you use te instead of may, would it be
No.
wrong?
It would be wrong.
It
And
would
that
be
would s-
wrong
That would sound funny.
because I looked it up and that's what I got. It was no te digas,
Well,
but nobody talks that way, huh?
Yeah.
Okay.
no me digas all the time. No me digas. No me digas. No me digas. You don't say. So sometimes, you know, sometimes it's just in shock. Gané la lotería. Soy millonaria. I'm a millionaire. No me digas. Okay. It doesn't have to be that level of, you know, excitement. It might be, you know, something you just know your friend was dearly wishing for. Ay, mi hijo se graduó. My son graduated. Ay, no me digas. You know, it's been like a long process. Ay, no me digas, right? So, but you know, ay, no me digas, yeah. So it might be said as, so usually it's said as surprise. You know, it could literally be said as, hey, don't do that, no me digas. Yeah, but more often than not, it's like as a surprise thing, like we do in English. Don't get lost.
Paradise.
Perderse.
No te pierdas.
No te
Ah,
pierdas.
No te pierdas. No te pierdas, because perder is an ER verb. No te pierdas. No te pierdas. Okay, no te pierdas. Don't go get yourself lost. Don't give her anything. No.
No le des nada.
No le des nada. No le des nada. No le des
So
nada.
we had a question. If you wanted to emphasize and throw a two in there, don't you give her anything.
Oh,
Where would you throw the two, or would you have to use a te?
oh, you wouldn't use a te.
Do no.
Probably there. Tú.
It would be at the
Tú.
beginning.
Tú. Yeah, and it would be said that way. Tú. Tú, no le des nada. But I never hear people doing that, to be honest. Because it's already a command. It's already kind of forceful. Okay. Bien. Muy bien. Vamos a practicar con más. If you don't have your chat box turned on, do so. I'm going to toss out some verbs. And you'll notice these are short things to say, aren't they? Aren't they short? They're just short because commands wind up being pretty darn short. You know, that's the nature of that communication. So if I want to use this verb and I want to say, you are a workaholic, stop doing that. You say,
Mm.
I gave you
No
the verb.
trabajas, no trabajas.
No trabajes
No
tanto.
trabajes. No trabajes tanto. No trabajes tanto. Now, if you say no trabajas tanto, it means you're not working so much. It's a fact. Oh, you're not working so much. What's the matter? Business slow? You know, could be, right? So it's got to come out as no trabajes tanto. Don't work so much. Yay. I'm going to give you regular kind of things here, kind of normal things. You do not want somebody, you do not want somebody messing with you. You don't need any help. You're a teenager and you want to be left alone. You want mom and dad to just butt out. So you say to mom, I don't need your help.
No me ayudes.
No me ayudes.
Wait.
No me ayudes. No me ayudes. Okay. Perfecto. Perfecto. You know somebody left the meat out on the counter for about 5 hours.
Oh,
Don't eat the meat.
Don't cook that.
oh,
Don't cook that.
no.
Cociné.
Cocinas.
No
No
cocines.
cocines. No cocines. No cocines eso. No cocines eso. No cocines eso. It's bad. Make you sick. Okay. Oh, you are 200 feet in the air.
Oh, don't look down.
Don't look down.
No mire. Oh, bajo.
¿Eres?
Uh-huh.
¿No mires?
Mm.
No mires.
No, mira, hasta abajo.
Abajo.
No mires abajo. No mires abajo. Down. No mires abajo. Right? Somebody tells you to look. Oh, mira, mira. Right? But no mires. No mires. Ooh. Don't buy that.
No
compres.
¿No compres?
No compres. No compres. No compres eso. No compres eso. No compres eso. No compres eso. You are very suspicious of what is in that glass of water.
Sounds like
Nice.
You are very sure that Moctezuma is coming back from the tomb
His revenge.
or his revenge.
That's funny.
Don't drink the water.
No toques el agua.
Well, toques would be to do this, to touch it.
No.
Toques would be this.
Yeah,
There
don't-
is a toques. Yeah, okay, so, yeah, okay. No tomes. No tomes el agua. You know, while we're at it, a lot of times you do hear mothers say this. Don't touch that.
Yeah.
You will hear mamas saying this, yes.
No toque, T-O-Q-U-E.
You,
But
Yeah.
you gotta slap an
Okay.
S on the end.
Oh, no toques.
No toques. No toques eso. No toques eso. No toques eso. No toques eso. Okay. A
no
ver.
toques nada.
No toques nada. No toques
Yeah.
nada. Perfecto. You are very sure that your best bud has had just one too many.
You drank too much.
Had too much.
No.
No bebes.
Bebas.
Bebas.
No beba. Don't drink so much. No. No bebas tanto. And the
No bebas.
implication will be this is something alcoholic, probably.
Mm.
Well, okay, unless, you know, you're direly dehydrated, you're going into heat stroke and you don't want to drink too fast. Okay, maybe, yeah, but you know, yeah. Okay, you yell at that little kid who almost knocked you over not to do this.
Oh, don't run. No cara.
No.
Caras.
For us.
Cora.
For us, yeah.
No corras, no corras. Perfecto. Okay. You are Raquel. Your mother is about to bring your ex
No.
to ruin your wonderful romantic meetup.
And evidently mom and dad as well. I didn't catch that when I watched that episode.
Well, you noticed that dad was like,
Dad wasn't in on this.
I'm not
Yeah,
so
but was she
sure."
saying all three of them should go?
Mhm.
What a downer that is. Who the heck wants a romantic with mom and dad? But you know, in La Familia, family is everything. So for me,
But
that would
she's
be like,
working and it's touchy.
What
Mom.
about poor Arturo?
Okay,
I
so
know, yeah.
Way cuter anyway.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
so this is how you tell somebody. How would you tell somebody butt out?
Ooh, mind your own business.
Yes,
Uh-huh.
exactamente. How would you tell somebody
No.
butt out?
Oh, my.
No,
No
meta.
metas la nariz.
La
No
nariz.
metas la nariz.
Don't stick your nose. Don't put your nose.
Really?
Oh,
Meter is to put something in something else. Butt out is this. No metas la nariz. Por favor, no metas la nariz. Yeah, you'll probably get the chancla, but you know, that is what happens. So, yeah, so now we didn't really get heavy duty yet into some of the odd stem changer things. We are going to do that. We'll do a bit of that. I'll give you a few of these to think about, you know, for next week. And so I'm going to give you a few of these to think about for next week. Other things that people, you know, would typically say in just conversational Spanish, because people will do that. And they're going to be negative too. So I'll give you just, you know, maybe 5 or 6 of them. And also, I am going to give you a video. It is going to be all in Spanish. So you may want to set the little girl box in YouTube to 0.75. But she starts to explain how subjunctive happens. And she does not get into all the rules, which I'm not doing either. There is like a heinous, pages long set of rules. But there was a lot of subjunctive that happens all the time. And so her point with this video is going to be, look, if you know how to say a negative to command, you know how to use subjunctive. You know how to make it. And she's going to give a few examples of some situations where that will be used. And we'll start to give you some very easy situations of when it is used. So I'm going to give you some negative to commands and then go watch the video. And then you're going to come back and look at part 2 of my negative to commands, which is going to be, I want you to do something. Okay. I insist that he does something. These are all going to be things that will call for that subjunctive. So you're going to do just the negative to commands. I'm going to have a thing in the middle that says, watch the video. You come back from the video, and now you're going to start to use what looks like negative to commands, but you're really going to be using a very complicated but very common thing called subjunctive in things that people would just say. Okay? Yeah?
Yeah.
We're good. You're going to get the next episodio of Destinos as well. So we'll wade through that. But this subjunctive is a meaty and very scary thing. It terrified me when I was, how old was I when I first used subjunctive? They did not give us subjunctive for a couple of years. But really, you should give it to people kind of soon because people hear it all the time. People use it all the time. And you can use it in very simple situations where it'll be like, oh yeah, I would say that. I would say that to the maid coming into the room to do something in my hotel room. You know, I would say that maybe to the waiter with a suggestion. So this is actually very typical stuff. So that's what we'll start to dip our toe into. You don't need to know everything about subjunctive, just little bits that you would typically use. Okay? Bien?
Yeah.
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 Ah, magnífico. Okay. Eso es todo para esta semana. For this week, that will be enough. And if I find another good subjunctive, but this is a good subjunctive video because it really points out, hey, if you know negative tú, now you know how to use it. And so now we'll see some examples. Okay. Eso es todo. Y espero que, I hope that. I don't know. I hope that. Espero que ustedes tengan una semana fantástica, una semana fantástica. Espero que ustedes lo pasen bien. I hope you have a good time. Espero que lo pasen bien.
Tú
Hope you have-
también.
Gracias. Espero que sí. Ahora que el aire acondicionado funciona, now that the AC all works, todo está bien, todo está bien. Ah,